The morning light filtered through our bedroom curtains as I watched Marcus zip up his suitcase, the sound of the zipper cutting through the comfortable silence we'd been sharing over coffee. He was always meticulous about packing, every shirt folded with military precision, every toiletry arranged in order of importance. It was one of those endearing quirks that had made me fall in love with him 3 years ago. "Seattle weather's supposed to be terrible this week," he said, not looking up from his suitcase. "Rain every day." "Perfect weather for closing deals indoors then," I replied, attempting to keep my voice light despite the knot forming in my stomach. Business trips always made me anxious, though I'd never admitted it to Marcus. Not because I didn't trust him, I trusted him completely, but because I'd grown so accustomed to his presence that the apartment felt hollow without him. Marcus straightened and turned to me, his dark eyes crinkling at the corners the way they did when he was genuinely happy. 5 days, Sarah. I'll be back Friday evening, and then we have the whole weekend together. Maybe we can finally try that new restaurant downtown you've been talking about." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Sounds perfect." He crossed the room and cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs gently brushing my cheekbones. "Hey, what's wrong? You look worried." "Nothing's wrong," I lied, leaning into his touch. "Just going to miss you, that's all." "I'll miss you too." He kissed me softly, and I tasted the lingering coffee on his lips. "But think of it this way. You'll have the whole place to yourself. You can blast your terrible music, eat ice cream for dinner, watch those reality shows I pretend not to judge you for." Despite my mood, I laughed. "They're not that terrible." "Sweetheart, last week you cried because a contestant got voted off a show about people living on an island and eating bugs." "It was emotional. He had 3 kids at home." Marcus grinned and pulled me closer. "This is why I love you. You care about everyone, even strangers eating beetles on television." The taxi honked from outside, and the moment shattered like glass. Marcus grabbed his suitcase and laptop bag, checking his phone for his boarding pass one final time. At the door, he paused and looked back at me. "I love you, Sarah. I'll call you tonight when I land." "I love you too. Have a safe flight." And then he was gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of his cologne and the echo of his footsteps in the hallway. The first day passed uneventfully. I worked from home, editing articles for the online magazine that employed me part-time, and tried to ignore how quiet the apartment felt. By evening, I'd rearranged the living room furniture twice and organized the kitchen cabinets, anything to keep my hands busy. When Marcus called at 9:30, his voice was tired but excited. "The presentation went better than expected," he said, and I could picture him loosening his tie as he spoke. "Johnson loved the quarterly projections. I think we might actually get the contract." "That's wonderful, honey. I'm so proud of you." "How was your day? Did you eat actual food, or did I correctly predict the ice cream dinner?" I glanced at the empty Ben Jerry's container on the coffee table. "I had a very nutritious salad," I said, technically not lying since there had been a wilted piece of lettuce on my sandwich at lunch. "Liar," he said, but I could hear the smile in his voice. "Get some real food tomorrow, okay? I worry about you." "I'm a grown woman, Marcus. I can feed myself." Says the woman who once tried to make pasta without water. That was one time. And I was distracted. We talked for another hour about everything and nothing. His hotel room with the view of Pike Place Market, my plans to visit my sister Emma the next day, whether we should finally get a cat like we'd been discussing for months. When we finally said goodnight, I felt better, more connected despite the distance. Tuesday brought rain, which seemed fitting for my mood. I'd slept poorly, tossing and turning in our bed that felt too big, with only me in it. To distract myself, I decided to follow through on my promise to visit Emma. She lived across town in a small house she shared with her boyfriend Jake, and their collection of rescue animals that seemed to multiply every time I visited. "You look terrible," Emma said when she opened the door, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun, paint stains on her fingers from her latest art project. "Thanks. I love you too." "I'm serious, Sarah. When's the last time you slept? Your eyes are all puffy." I followed her into the living room, stepping carefully around 2 cats and a dog that looked like it might be part wolf. Marcus left yesterday for that Seattle trip. You know how I get. Emma curled up on her couch, tucking her legs beneath her. You need to work on this separation anxiety thing. It's not healthy. It's not separation anxiety. I just sleep better when he's there. That's literally what separation anxiety is. I was about to argue when Jake emerged from the kitchen, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing an expression I couldn't quite read. He handed one to Emma and nodded at me. Hey, Sarah. How are things? Good, I said, though something in his tone made me pause. How are you? Jake and Emma exchanged a look, one of those quick, loaded glances that couples share when they're communicating without words. It lasted only a second, but it was enough to make my stomach tighten. Everything's fine, Emma said quickly. Jake's just stressed about work. His boss is being a nightmare. Jake nodded, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Yeah, just work stuff. You know how it is. I stayed for another hour, but the strange atmosphere never fully lifted. Jake kept disappearing into other rooms, and Emma seemed unusually chatty, filling every silence with observations about her art or questions about my work. When I finally left, I felt more unsettled than when I'd arrived. That evening, Marcus called again, his voice brighter than the night before. We got the contract, he announced before I could even say hello. Marcus, that's incredible. Congratulations. I know, I can barely believe it. Johnson wants to celebrate. He's taking the whole team out to some fancy steakhouse tomorrow night. I probably won't be able to call until late. Don't worry about it. You deserve to celebrate. I can't wait to tell you everything in person. This could change everything for us, Sarah. The commission alone could pay for that vacation to Italy we've been talking about. His excitement was infectious, and for the first time since he'd left, I felt genuinely happy. We talked for a while longer about his plans for the celebration and my uneventful day, carefully omitting the strange interaction with Emma and Jake. Wednesday crawled by with agonizing slowness. I tried to work, but found myself staring at my laptop screen, unable to focus on the article about sustainable fashion that was due by Friday. Instead, I kept thinking about Jake's expression, the way he'd avoided looking at me. Emma had texted once to ask if I'd made it home safely, but when I'd tried to call her back, she hadn't answered. By Thursday, I was starting to feel genuinely anxious. Marcus had sent a few brief texts but hadn't called, which wasn't entirely unusual when he was busy with work, but combined with Emma's weird behavior, it left me feeling off balance. I decided to surprise Marcus by putting together a photo album of our relationship, something I'd been meaning to do for months. I gathered all the physical photos I could find, and then started going through my phone for digital ones. We'd taken hundreds over the years, selfies at restaurants, pictures from weekend trips, candid shots of each other around the apartment. As I scrolled through them, I felt my mood lifting. There we were at Emma's birthday party last month, Marcus's arm around my waist as we laughed at something Jake had said. There we were at the beach last summer, both of us sunburned and grinning. There we were at Christmas, opening presents in our pajamas. I was so absorbed in the memories that I almost missed it. Buried between a photo of Marcus making pancakes and a screenshot of a funny meme was a video I didn't remember taking. The thumbnail showed what looked like the interior of a car, and the timestamp indicated it was from Tuesday, the day I'd visited Emma. Curious, I tapped on it. The video started shaky, as if whoever was recording was trying to be discreet. The camera panned across what I recognized as the interior of Jake's car, the distinctive crack in the dashboard, the air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror. But it was the voices that made my blood run cold. Can't keep doing this, a woman was saying, her voice strained. Sarah's going to find out eventually. No, she won't, came the reply, and my world tilted sideways. It was Marcus's voice, unmistakably Marcus, though he sounded different somehow, urgent, almost desperate. She trusts me completely. She has no reason to suspect anything. But what if someone sees us together? What if... Emma, we've been careful. No one knows. Emma. My sister, Emma. The video shook violently, and I realized with growing horror that someone had been recording this conversation without their knowledge. The angle was awkward, as if the phone had been hidden or partially concealed, but the audio was clear enough. "I feel terrible about this," Emma continued, and I could hear tears in her voice. "She's my sister, Marcus. I love her." "I love her too," Marcus said, and each word felt like a physical blow. "But this, what we have? I've never felt anything like this before." "What happens when you get back from Seattle? Are you going to tell her?" There was a long pause, filled only by the sound of traffic and my own ragged breathing as I stared at the screen. "I don't know," Marcus finally said. "I need more time to figure this out." The video ended abruptly, leaving me staring at my phone in stunned silence. My hands were shaking so violently that I could barely hold the device. I played the video again, hoping desperately that I'd misheard, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But no, it was definitely Marcus's voice, definitely Emma's voice, definitely them talking about some kind of relationship they were hiding from me. I stumbled to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left, then sat on the cold tile floor, my back against the bathtub, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. How long had this been going on? When had it started? And who had recorded this? Who had put this video on my phone? The questions swirled in my mind like a tornado, destroying everything I thought I knew about my life. Marcus, who kissed me goodbye every morning and told me he loved me every night. Emma, who had been my best friend since childhood, who had helped me pick out the dress for my first date with Marcus, who had been the maid of honor at the wedding we'd been planning for next year. I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually I heard the sound of a key in the front door. My heart stopped. Marcus wasn't supposed to be back until tomorrow. "Sarah?" His voice called out, bright and happy. "Surprise! I caught an earlier flight." I heard him moving around the apartment, probably looking for me. I should get up, I thought. I should confront him. I should scream and throw things and demand answers. But I couldn't move. I felt paralyzed, frozen between the woman I'd been an hour ago and whoever I was supposed to be now. "Sarah? Where are you, sweetheart?" Footsteps in the hallway, getting closer. "I brought you something from Seattle. And wait until I tell you about dinner last night. We went to this incredible place overlooking the water, and I kept thinking about how much you would have..." He appeared in the bathroom doorway and stopped mid-sentence when he saw me sitting on the floor. "Sarah? What's wrong? Are you sick?" The concern in his voice was so genuine, so perfectly performed, that for a moment I almost believed I'd imagined everything. This was Marcus, my Marcus, who brought me soup when I had a cold, and who remembered the names of all my work colleagues even though he'd only met them once at a company picnic. "I'm fine," I managed to say, though my voice came out as barely a whisper. He knelt down beside me, his hand reaching for my forehead to check for fever. "You don't look fine. You're white as a sheet." His touch made my skin crawl, and I jerked away from him. The hurt that flashed across his face looked so real that I wondered, for a brief, desperate moment, if I was losing my mind. "Sarah, what's going on? Did something happen while I was gone?" I looked up at him, really looked at him. His dark hair was slightly mussed from travel, his tie loosened around his neck. He looked exactly like the man I'd fallen in love with, exactly like the man I'd been planning to marry. But now I searched his face for signs of deception, for cracks in the facade, for any indication of the person I'd heard on that video. "How was your trip?" I asked, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. His face brightened immediately. "Incredible! We not only got the contract, but Johnson hinted at a possible promotion. I'm talking about senior partner track, Sarah. Everything we've been working toward." "That's wonderful." The words felt like ash in my mouth. "And the celebration dinner was amazing. The whole team was there. Johnson brought his wife, Martinez brought his girlfriend. I wished you could have been there." He was lying. According to the video, he'd been back in town on Tuesday, which meant he couldn't have been at any dinner in Seattle last night. But his expression was so sincere, his enthusiasm so believable. If I hadn't heard that video, I would never have suspected anything. "I missed you so much," he said, leaning down to kiss my forehead. Every night I kept reaching for you in bed and remembering you weren't there. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shake him until he told me the truth. Instead, I heard myself saying, "I missed you too." He helped me up from the bathroom floor, his hands gentle and familiar. "Why don't you go lie down? I'll make you some tea." I nodded and walked to our bedroom like a sleepwalker. Our bedroom, with the photos of us on the nightstand and the book he'd been reading still open on his side of the bed. I sat on the edge of the mattress and stared at my phone, still trying to process what I'd seen and heard. Who had recorded that video? And more importantly, how had it gotten on my phone? Marcus appeared in the doorway with a steaming mug, and the sight of him performing this small act of care while harboring such a massive deception made me feel physically ill again. "Here," he said, settling the mug on my nightstand. "Chamomile with honey, just how you like it." "Thank you." He sat down beside me and pulled me against his chest. I let him, even though every instinct was screaming at me to pull away. His heartbeat was steady against my ear, his breathing calm and even. If he was consumed with guilt about his affair with my sister, he was hiding it remarkably well. "I brought you something," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small box wrapped in tissue paper. "I saw it in the hotel gift shop and thought of you." I unwrapped it with trembling fingers. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a charm in the shape of a heart, the kind of thoughtful, romantic gesture that Marcus excelled at, the kind of thing that had made all my friends jealous of our relationship. "It's beautiful," I whispered, because what else was I supposed to say? "I love you, Sarah," he said, his voice soft and serious. "I know I don't say it enough, but you're everything to me. You know that, right?" I nodded because I couldn't trust my voice not to break. We spent the evening together like we always did when he returned from trips. He told me stories about Seattle while I pretended to listen. We ordered Thai food from our favorite restaurant. We watched a movie curled up on the couch. It should have been perfect. It would have been perfect, if not for the video burning a hole in my phone like radioactive material. That night, as Marcus slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling and tried to piece together a timeline. When had it started? Had there been signs I'd missed? I thought about the past few months, searching my memory for clues. Emma had been acting slightly strange lately, more distant during our phone calls, less available for our usual weekend lunches. And there had been a few times when Marcus had worked late or had last-minute business dinners that I hadn't questioned because I'd trusted him completely. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how easy it would have been for them to carry on an affair right under my nose. Emma knew my schedule, knew when Marcus would be home, knew all the details of our life together. And Marcus. Marcus knew me well enough to predict exactly how I'd react, what I'd believe, what would never occur to me to question. I must have dozed fitfully because I woke to the sound of Marcus's phone buzzing on his nightstand. The room was still dark. It couldn't have been much past dawn. Marcus stirred beside me but didn't wake up. The phone buzzed again, and without thinking, I reached across him to check the display. Emma. My blood turned to ice. Why would my sister be calling Marcus at 6 a.m? The phone stopped buzzing, then immediately started again. This time Marcus woke up. "What's that?" he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. "Your phone," I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Someone's calling you." He reached for it, squinting at the screen. I watched his face carefully, looking for any sign of recognition, any tell that would give him away, but he just looked confused. "Emma?" he said, glancing at me. "Why is your sister calling me this early?" He answered the call. "Emma, is everything okay?" I couldn't hear her side of the conversation, but I watched Marcus's expression change from confused to concerned to something else, something that might have been panic, quickly masked. "Slow down," he said. "What happened? Are you hurt?" A pause as she spoke. Okay. Yes, I think that's probably best. Sarah's right here. Do you want to talk to her?" He held the phone out to me, his face carefully neutral. "She wants to talk to you. Something about Jake." I took the phone with shaking hands. "Emma? What's wrong?" Sarah. Emma's voice was thick with tears. I need to see you. Something terrible has happened. What do you mean? Are you okay? I can't explain over the phone. Can you meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street? The one we used to go to as kids? I glanced at Marcus, who was watching me with what looked like genuine concern. Emma, it's 6 a.m. What? Please, Sarah, I know it's early, but I need to see you right now. It's important. Something in her voice, a desperation that went beyond whatever crisis she was claiming, made me agree. Okay, give me 20 minutes. Come alone, she said quickly. Don't bring Marcus. The line went dead. Marcus was already getting out of bed. I'll drive you, he said, reaching for his clothes. She said to come alone. He paused, his shirt halfway over his head. That's strange. Why wouldn't she want me there? It was a good question, and one that I didn't have an answer for. I don't know. Maybe it's something private, girl stuff. Marcus nodded slowly, but I could see him thinking, calculating. Okay, but call me if you need anything, all right? If something's really wrong, I want to help. 20 minutes later, I was walking into Brewster's Coffee, the little shop where Emma and I had spent countless Saturday mornings as teenagers, sharing pastries and talking about boys and dreams and all the things we thought we understood about life. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emma was already there, sitting in our old corner booth, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she was trying to draw warmth from it. She looked terrible. Her face was pale and drawn, her eyes reed-rimmed from crying. When she saw me, she started crying again. Sarah, she said, as I slid into the booth across from her. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Emma, what's going on? Is Jake okay? Are you okay? She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. Jake's fine. This isn't about Jake. She took a shuddering breath. Sarah, I need to tell you something, and I need you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen. My stomach dropped. This was it. This was the moment she was going to confess to the affair I'd heard about on the video. Part of me wanted to stop her, to preserve for just a few more seconds the illusion that my life wasn't falling apart. But I needed to hear it. What are you talking about? Emma reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking as badly as mine had been the night before. Jake made me promise I'd never tell you this, but I can't live with the secret anymore, especially not after what happened yesterday. What secret? She set her phone on the table between us and turned it so I could see the screen. It was a text conversation between her and someone whose number wasn't saved in her contacts, but I recognized the area code. It was local. The first message was from 3 days ago. I know what you're doing. Meet me at the parking garage on Elm Street tomorrow at 2 p.m., or I tell Sarah everything. Emma's response, Who is this? What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Elm Street Garage, level 3. Come alone. Emma's response, I'm not meeting some stranger. If you have something to say it. Fine. I'll just send Sarah the video then. The conversation continued with Emma eventually agreeing to the meeting, but I stopped reading and looked up at her. What video? Emma, what is this person talking about? Emma was crying harder now. Sarah, you have to understand. It's not what it looks like. The video, it's taken out of context. My blood was roaring in my ears. What video, Emma? She reached across the table and took my hands in hers. Someone recorded Marcus and me talking in Jake's car on Tuesday, but Sarah, I swear to you, nothing happened between us. Nothing romantic, nothing physical. We were just talking. About what? Emma's grip on my hands tightened. About you, about a surprise we were planning for you. I stared at her, not comprehending. A surprise? Marcus wanted to propose. He's been planning it for months, and he asked me to help him because he wanted everything to be perfect. He wanted to know your ring size, your favorite flowers, whether you'd prefer a big romantic gesture or something intimate. We've been meeting secretly to plan the whole thing. The coffee shop suddenly felt like it was spinning around me. That's what you were talking about in the video? Yes, but whoever recorded us edited it to make it sound like we were having an affair. They cut out the parts where we talked about the engagement ring and the restaurant reservations, and all the details Marcus has been planning. They made it sound like we were confessing to some kind of relationship. I pulled my hands free and pressed them to my temples, trying to process what she was saying. But why were you crying? In the video, you sounded upset. Emma's face crumpled. Because I was upset. Marcus was supposed to propose last weekend, but then he got cold feet. He started second-guessing everything. Whether you were ready, whether the ring was right, whether he should wait until after his business trip. I was crying because I could see how much stress it was causing him, and I felt guilty for pushing him to go through with it when he was having doubts. But the way he talked about loving you. He said he loved you, Sarah, not me. He was talking about how much he loved you, and how terrified he was of screwing up the proposal, because he wanted it to be perfect for you. I felt like I was drowning. Then why didn't either of you just tell me the truth when I acted weird yesterday? Because Marcus made me promise not to say anything. He was worried that if you suspected something was up, it would ruin the surprise. And after he saw how shaken you were, he started second-guessing himself all over again. Emma reached for my hands again. Sarah, he loves you so much. He spent 3 hours with me last week, agonizing over whether to get a round diamond or a princess cut because he wanted to make sure it was exactly what you'd want. My head was spinning. Could it be true? Could I have completely misunderstood what I'd heard in that video? But who recorded you? And how did it get on my phone? Emma's expression darkened. That's what I found out yesterday when I met with whoever sent those texts. Sarah, it was Jake. Jake? I stared at her. You're Jake. She nodded miserably. Apparently, he's been suspicious of me for weeks. He thought I was cheating on him because I kept having these mysterious meetings and phone calls that I couldn't explain. So he started following me. When he saw me get into a car with Marcus on Tuesday, he hid nearby and recorded our conversation. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I still felt lost. But why would he put it on my phone? Because when he listened to the recording, he heard the same thing you did. He thought Marcus and I were having an affair. He was furious, not just at me, but at the idea that you were being betrayed by your sister and your boyfriend. So he decided to expose us. By putting the video on my phone? He knows you always leave your phone unlocked when you're visiting us. While you were in the bathroom on Tuesday, he transferred the file. He thought he was protecting you. I sat back in the booth, my mind reeling. So, there's no affair? No affair, Emma said firmly. Just two people who care about you very much trying to plan the perfect proposal, and one person who misunderstood what he was hearing. Relief and confusion and anger all crashed over me at once. Why didn't you tell me all this yesterday when I was acting so strange? Because Marcus made me swear I wouldn't ruin the surprise. And honestly, I didn't know about the video until Jake confessed yesterday. I had no idea why you were acting weird. She paused, wiping her eyes. But when Jake told me what he'd done, I knew I had to come clean. I couldn't let you go on thinking something that wasn't true. I thought about Marcus's behavior the night before. The genuine confusion when Emma called, the concern when he saw how upset I was, the sweet gift from Seattle and his talk about our future together. Had I really been so wrong about everything? Is Jake okay with you telling me all this? Emma's mouth tightened. Jake and I have our own problems to work out. What he did, recording us without permission, interfering in your relationship, jumping to conclusions. It's not okay. I don't know if we're going to make it through this. Emma, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. It's not your fault, and I'm sorry too. I'm sorry we had to be so secretive, and I'm sorry that secrecy led to all this confusion and hurt. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us lost in our own thoughts. Finally, Emma spoke again. Sarah, Marcus doesn't know that I'm telling you this. As far as he knows, his proposal is still going to be a surprise. When? Emma smiled for the first time since I'd arrived. Tomorrow night. He has reservations at Chez Laurent, the French place you've always wanted to try. He's going to tell you he wants to celebrate his promotion, but really, he's planning to propose during dessert. I felt tears start to well up in my eyes, but for the first time in days, they were happy tears. Really? Really? The ring is beautiful, Sarah. He has excellent taste. As I drove home, my emotions were a tangled mess. Relief that there was no affair, guilt for doubting Marcus, anger at Jake for his interference, and underneath it all, a bubbling excitement about the proposal I now knew was coming. But there was also a nagging worry about how to face Marcus. How could I act normal when I knew what he was planning? I found him in the kitchen, making breakfast. He looked up when I walked in, his expression cautious. "How's Emma? Is everything okay?" I hesitated, knowing that any answer I gave would be partially a lie. "She's okay. She and Jake are having some problems, but she'll be all right." Marcus nodded and turned back to the stove, where he was scrambling eggs. "I'm sorry. I know how much you worry about her." "Marcus?" I said, stepping closer to him. "Yeah? I love you." He turned around, surprise and relief evident on his face. "I love you too. Are you feeling better? You seemed so upset yesterday." "I'm feeling much better," I said, and for the first time in days, it was completely true. He smiled and pulled me into his arms, and this time, his touch didn't make me want to recoil. This time, it felt like coming home. "Good," he said, kissing the top of my head. "Because I was thinking we should do something special tomorrow night. There's this French restaurant I've been wanting to take you to." I smiled against his chest, my heart full of love and anticipation, and the knowledge that sometimes the truth is more beautiful than the lies we tell ourselves in our darkest moments. "That sounds perfect," I said. "Absolutely perfect." The next evening, as Marcus nervously adjusted his tie for the third time, and I pretended not to notice the small velvet box he kept checking in his jacket pocket, I thought about trust and communication, and how easily misunderstandings can destroy the things we hold most dear. I thought about Jake, still bitter and confused in his certainty that he'd been protecting me, and about Emma, trying to rebuild her relationship with a man who'd let jealousy cloud his judgment. But mostly, I thought about Marcus, my Marcus, who loved me enough to spend months planning the perfect proposal, who brought me tea when I was sick and remembered my favorite coffee order and worried about whether I was eating properly when he was away. As we walked into Chez Laurent, his hand warm and steady in mine, I realized that the video on my phone had taught me something valuable. Not about deception or betrayal, but about the danger of letting fear and insecurity poison the trust that love requires to flourish. When Marcus got down on one knee during dessert, his hands shaking slightly as he opened the velvet box to reveal a beautiful princess-cut diamond, I said yes with my whole heart. And when he slipped the ring onto my finger, I knew that whatever challenges we'd face in our future together, we'd face them with honesty and trust, and the kind of love that survives misunderstandings and grows stronger in the light of truth. The video was still on my phone when we got home that night. As Marcus slept peacefully beside me, his arm around my waist and my engagement ring catching the moonlight, I finally deleted it. Some secrets I'd learned are worth keeping, but lies, even well-intentioned ones, have a way of poisoning everything they touch. I closed my eyes and dreamed of white dresses and French restaurants and a future built on the solid foundation of trust that can only exist when two people choose to believe in each other, even when the world conspires to make them doubt. The video was gone, but the lesson it taught me would last forever.